Sometimes the greatest love stories begin with a simple act of kindness. At St. Mary's Hospital, a young nurse named Marcus Taylor was just starting his night shift when ambulance sirens pierced the quiet. A critically injured woman needed immediate surgery, but the blood bank was running dangerously low. Without hesitation, Marcus offered to donate his own blood. What he didn't know was that the woman fighting for her life was Sarah Matthews, a self-made millionaire who had built her empire while raising her daughter alone. His compassionate heart had no idea that this one selfless act would soon blossom into something extraordinary. As his blood flowed into her veins, destiny was quietly writing their story. But what secret has Sarah kept buried in her heart for all these years? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The emergency room doors burst open with a rush of cold night air. Marcus looked up from his charts as paramedics wheeled in the gurney, their voices sharp with urgency. The woman's dark hair was matted with blood, her elegant clothes torn and stained. A cracked iPhone dangled from her limp hand, its screen still illuminated with a text message. "Good night, Mom. Love you always." "Female, early 40s, severe trauma from vehicle collision," the lead paramedic announced. "Multiple lacerations, possible internal bleeding, BP dropping rapidly." Dr. Patel, the attending physician, moved swiftly to assess the situation. "We need blood, type O negative, stat." Marcus watched as the nursing supervisor, Linda Chen, rushed back from the blood bank, her face tight with concern. "We're critically low on O-neg, maybe 2 units left, and we've got that scheduled surgery in an hour." The woman on the gurney made a soft sound, barely audible above the beeping monitors. Her hand twitched, and the phone clattered to the floor. Marcus picked it up, catching a glimpse of the lock screen, a selfie of the woman smiling with a teenage girl, both of them wearing matching holiday sweaters. "I'm O-negative," Marcus heard himself say. The words came out before he'd even finished the thought. "I can donate right now." Dr. Patel looked up sharply. "Taylor, you're in the middle of your shift. Jones can cover my patients for an hour." Marcus was already rolling up his sleeve. "We don't have time to debate this." Linda stepped forward. "Marcus, are you sure? You know the protocol about staff donations." "She's someone's mother," he said quietly, holding up the phone. "Someone's waiting for her to come home." The next few minutes moved with practiced efficiency. As Marcus sat in the donation chair, he watched the organized chaos of the trauma team working to save the woman's life. Her clothes were being cut away, revealing an expensive silk blouse and a delicate gold necklace with a small pendant. A compass rose. The lab tech Maria worked quickly to prep him for the donation. "You're a good man, Marcus Taylor," she said as she swabbed his arm. "But you know this is going to mean paperwork, administrative review." Marcus nodded, barely feeling the needle slip into his vein. His eyes were fixed on the woman's face, peaceful despite the trauma, as if she were just sleeping. There was something striking about her features, a quiet strength even in unconsciousness. Linda appeared with forms for him to sign, liability waivers, consent documents. "Her purse was found in the wreckage," she said softly. "Sarah Matthews, CEO of Matthews Design Group. There's already media gathering outside." Marcus barely registered the name. He was watching his blood flow through the tube, thinking about the text message on the phone. Someone's mother, someone's whole world. The minutes ticked by as his blood was processed and rushed to the operating room, where Sarah Matthews was fighting for her life. Marcus sat there long after the donation was complete, his body tired but his mind racing. The phone sat on the counter nearby, its screen dark now, holding the last moment of an ordinary evening before everything changed. A soft chime broke the silence, another text message. Marcus couldn't help but see it flash across the screen. "Mom, the hospital called. I'm on my way. Please be okay. Please." He closed his eyes, feeling the weight of what that message meant. Somewhere in the city, a teenage girl was rushing through the night, her world tilted on its axis, not knowing that her mother's life was now flowing through a stranger's gift. Marcus. Linda's voice drew him back to the present. Go home. Your shift's over. I can stay. You've done enough. Her tone softened. More than enough. Get some rest. There'll be questions tomorrow. As he gathered his things, Marcus paused by the trauma bay where they had first brought her in. The floor was still marked with scattered gauze wrappers and discarded packaging, evidence of the fight to save a life. He picked up the compass rose necklace from where it had fallen, forgotten in the chaos. Linda saw him holding it. Leave it with her personal effects, she said. Her daughter will want it. Marcus placed the necklace carefully in the clear hospital property bag, alongside the cracked phone that had first moved him to act. Tomorrow, there would be paperwork and meetings, questions about protocol and professional boundaries. But for now, in the quiet aftermath of crisis, he knew with absolute certainty that he had done the right thing. What he didn't know, couldn't know, was that this night would change everything. That sometimes the smallest choices made in moments of crisis can alter the course of multiple lives. That his blood flowing into Sarah Matthews's veins was just the beginning of a story that had been waiting years to unfold. The morning shift arrived with the same predictable rhythm as always, but nothing else felt normal. Marcus had tried to sleep after his shift, but rest wouldn't come. He returned to the hospital early, drawn by a need to know if his donation had made a difference. In the break room, a discarded business magazine caught his eye. Sarah Matthews' face stared up at him from the cover, healthy, vibrant, commanding. The future of sustainable design, how one mother's vision changed an industry. The photo showed her in a sleek office, sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows behind her. It was hard to reconcile this powerful figure with the vulnerable woman from last night. She made it through surgery, Linda said, appearing in the doorway. Still critical, but stable. Marcus let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Her daughter, on her way, and Marcus, Linda's expression was serious. The press is already calling. This is going to be a circus. The words had barely left her mouth when commotion erupted in the hallway. A teenage girl burst through the ICU doors, her private school uniform rumpled, dark hair falling from a hasty ponytail. 2 security guards trailed behind her, along with a harried-looking woman in a business suit. "Claire, please," the suited woman called. "We need to follow protocol." "She's my mother." Claire Matthews' voice cracked. "I don't care about protocols." Marcus moved without thinking, stepping into the hallway. "I can help," he said quietly. All eyes turned to him. "I'm the nurse who donated blood for her mother." Claire stopped, her eyes, so much like Sarah's, fixing on him with startling intensity. You're the one who saved her." "The whole team saved her," Marcus corrected gently. "I just helped." The business-suited woman stepped forward. "I'm Patricia Walsh, Matthews Design Group's Chief of Operations. On behalf of the company, we're incredibly grateful." "Can I see her?" Claire interrupted, still looking at Marcus. The composure she'd clearly been taught to maintain was crumbling around the edges. Marcus glanced at Linda, who nodded slightly. "I'll take you to her room, but, He hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "You should be prepared. There's a lot of equipment, machines helping her heal. It can be overwhelming." Claire squared her shoulders, a gesture so reminiscent of her mother's magazine photo that Marcus felt a strange twist in his chest. "I can handle it." As they walked to Sarah's room, Patricia fell into step beside Marcus. "The hospital administration has been very cooperative about press management," she said in low tones, "but we'd appreciate your discretion regarding Ms. Matthews's condition." "I respect all my patients' privacy," Marcus replied, perhaps more sharply than intended, "regardless of who they are." They reached the ICU room. Through the glass, Sarah Matthews lay still and pale against white sheets, surrounded by the rhythmic beeping of monitors. Claire pressed a hand to the window, her reflection overlaying her mother's face. "She hates hospitals," Claire whispered. "Ever since Dad." She didn't finish the sentence, but Marcus caught the shadow that passed over Patricia's face. There, Was a story there, but now wasn't the time to ask. 10 minutes, Linda said firmly. Then we need to check her vitals. Claire nodded, squaring those shoulders again before entering the room. Marcus watched as she approached the bed with careful steps, taking her mother's hand with infinite gentleness. The gesture struck him. This daughter used to a mother of strength and power, now becoming the protector herself. Patricia touched his arm. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Truly. Sarah Matthews isn't just a CEO to us. She's family. Marcus nodded, but his attention was still on Claire, who had pulled a chair close to the bed and was speaking softly to her mother. The morning sun slanted through the windows, catching the compass rose necklace, now returned to its place around Sarah's neck. He turned away, giving them privacy, but not before he saw Claire reach for the magazine someone had left on the bedside table, the same one from the break room. Mother and daughter shared the same cover now, one in glossy print, one in worried vigilance, both parts of a story that was only beginning to unfold. The old music box appeared on Sarah's bedside table 3 days after the accident. Claire brought it in, wrapped in a faded silk scarf, handling it like it contained something far more precious than its simple melody. It was her grandmother's. Claire explained to Marcus as he checked Sarah's vitals. Mum always said it helped her think when things got tough. Marcus watched her wind the delicate key. The tune that emerged was gentle, almost hesitant. A lullaby, perhaps, worn soft by time. Something shifted in Claire's expression as she listened, a glimpse of the child she must have been not so long ago. She used to play it for me when I couldn't sleep, Claire said, then caught herself as if she'd revealed too much. The wall of teenage composure went back up. The doctor said she might be able to hear things, right? Many patients respond to familiar sounds, Marcus confirmed. He adjusted Sarah's IV line, noting how her color had improved. Music, voices they recognize. A small sound from the bed stopped him mid-sentence. Sarah's fingers twitched against the sheets, and her eyelids fluttered. Mom! Claire was instantly at her side. Mom, can you hear me? Sarah Matthews opened her eyes slowly, blinking against the morning light. Her gaze found Claire first, confusion giving way to recognition, then sharp concern. She tried to speak, but the breathing tube prevented it. Don't try to talk, Marcus said, moving into her line of sight. You're in the hospital. You're safe. Claire's here. Sarah's eyes locked onto his, and Marcus felt an unexpected jolt of connection. There was such intelligence in that gaze, such immediate presence, despite the drugs and trauma. A hand moved to her throat and he understood. If you're comfortable breathing on your own, we can remove the tube, he explained. Blink twice if you understand. 2 clear, deliberate blinks. The next few minutes were a carefully choreographed medical procedure. Dr. Patel was called, the tube was removed, and Sarah took her first unassisted breaths while Claire clutched her hand. The music box played its quiet tune in the background, a gentle counterpoint to the medical machinery. Claire! Sarah's voice was rough, barely a whisper. You should be in school. Claire gave a watery laugh. Seriously, that's what you're worried about? Always. Sarah managed a small smile, then turned her attention back to Marcus. You're the one, your blood? Marcus nodded. Try not to talk too much right now. Your body's been through a lot. Thank you. The words were simple, but the look that accompanied them was complex. Gratitude layered with something deeper, more questioning. A commotion in the hallway broke the moment. Patricia Walsh's voice carried through the door, along with several others, board members Marcus would later learn, demanding updates and access. Sarah's heart rate spiked on the monitor. Her hand went to her neck, finding the compass rose pendant. It's okay, Claire said quickly. Patricia's handling everything. The company's fine. Just focus on getting better. But Marcus saw the shadow that crossed Sarah's face at the word company. She gripped the pendant tighter, and for a moment, fear flickered in her eyes, not the normal fear of a patient recovering from trauma, but something older, more deeply rooted. Perhaps we should limit visitors today, he suggested, watching the monitors. Give Ms. Matthews time to adjust. Sarah, she corrected softly. Please, call me Sarah. Their eyes met again, and Marcus felt that same strange connection. Here was a woman used to commanding boardrooms, shaping industries, yet something in the way she looked at him held no trace of that corporate power. She was simply a mother, a survivor, and, he suspected, someone carrying a burden she couldn't yet share. The music box tune wound down, ending with a gentle click. Claire reached to wind it again, but Sarah stopped her with a touch. Later, sweetheart, she whispered. Right now, I just need quiet. But as Marcus turned to leave to give them their privacy, Sarah spoke again. Will you be back? Next shift, he promised. Try to rest. Outside the room, Patricia. Walsh was still negotiating with the gathered board members. Marcus heard fragments about stock prices, project deadlines, client concerns. But all he could think about was the look in Sarah's eyes when she touched that compass rose pendant, like someone checking to make sure a door was still locked, a secret still safe. The thank you card arrived on Marcus's third consecutive night shift. He found it tucked beneath his locker nameplate, heavy cream-colored paper, his name written in an elegant hand. Inside, the message was simple, but stirred something unexpected. In his chest, some people do their jobs, others change lives. Thank you for being the second kind. Sarah, secret admirer. Linda's voice made him start. She was leaning against the doorframe, arms crossed, expression carefully neutral. Just a thank you note. Marcus tucked the card into his scrub pocket, but not before Linda caught a glimpse of the distinctive Matthews Design Group letterhead. Marcus? Her tone carried a warning. You know we need to talk about this. About a patient expressing gratitude. About you checking her charts, even when she's not on your rotation. About you stopping by her room during your breaks. About the way you two look at each other. Marcus felt heat rise in his face. I'm just being thorough. You're being human. Linda's voice softened. And normally I'd say that's one of your best qualities, but this is Sarah Matthews. Everything about her situation is complicated. As if to prove her point, the sound of raised voices drifted down the hallway. Claire Matthews was arguing with someone. Again. It's my mother's medical information, and I'm her daughter, and I'm her attorney, a man's voice responded, tasked with protecting both her personal and corporate interests. There are protocols. Marcus moved before thinking, rounding the corner to find Claire squared off against a silver-haired man in an expensive suit. Her school uniform was wrinkled, dark circles under her eyes, suggesting she'd been spending nights at the hospital. Is there a problem? Marcus kept his voice professional, but positioned himself slightly between Claire and the attorney. Mr. Taylor. The attorney's smile didn't reach his eyes. Robert Winters, Matthews Design Group Legal Counsel. Perhaps you can help. We need to establish a clear chain of communication regarding Ms. Matthews' condition. All medical updates go through proper channels, Marcus replied. Patient confidentiality. Mum asked for him. Claire's interruption was quiet but firm. She trusts him. Something flickered across Winter's face. Concern, calculation. Nevertheless, there are liability considerations. Your mother's position makes certain precautions necessary. My mother's position, Claire's voice cracked slightly, is in that hospital bed, and the only person who's been here consistently, who actually seems to care about her as a person, and not a CEO, is Marcus. The attorney opened his mouth to respond, but a new voice cut through the tension. Is there a reason you're all discussing me as if I'm not here? Sarah Matthews stood in her doorway, one hand gripping an IV pole for support. She shouldn't have been up, but there was no trace of weakness in her bearing. Sarah, Marcus stepped forward instinctively. You shouldn't be standing? Her smile held a hint of mischief. Probably not. Would you help me walk a bit? Doctor's orders for mobility, after all. Before Winters could object, Marcus was at her side, offering his arm. They moved slowly down the hallway, leaving Claire to handle the sputtering attorney. You're getting stronger, Marcus observed, matching his pace to hers. Thanks to you. She glanced up at him. Not just the blood. You've been a light in all this darkness. The words hung between them, heavy with unspoken meaning. They reached the end of the corridor, where wide windows overlooked the city lights. Robert means well, Sarah said finally. He's been with the company since the beginning, but lately, she touched her compass rose pendant, that familiar gesture Marcus had come to recognize as a tell. Lately, everything feels more complicated than it should be. Ms. Matthews, Sarah, please, Sarah. Her name felt different on his tongue. Now, more personal. Whatever complications exist, my only concern is your recovery. She turned to face him, one hand still on his arm for balance. Is that true? Just my recovery? Nothing else? The question stripped away all pretense. Standing there in the hospital corridor, Sarah Matthews wasn't a CEO or a public figure. She was simply a woman, looking at him with eyes that held equal measures of hope and fear. Before Marcus could respond, a sharp pain shot through Sarah's side. She gasped, swaying slightly. That's enough walking for now, he said, professional tone firmly back in place. But as he helped her back to her room, he couldn't ignore how naturally her hand fit in his, or how the simple act of supporting her felt like the most right thing he'd done in years. Neither of them noticed Linda watching from the nurse's station. Her expression troubled as she reached for the hospital's policy manual. The police accident report lay open on Sarah's bedside table, its clinical language at odds with the violence it described. Marcus couldn't help glancing at it as he checked her evening medications. Vehicle found approximately 20 miles from victim's residence, no obvious mechanical failures, unexplained deviation from routine route. It doesn't make sense, Claire said from her usual chair by the window. She'd been reading the report too, over and over. Mom never takes that road, ever. She hasn't been to that part of town since... She stopped abruptly, catching herself again. Sarah stirred in her sleep, fingers clutching at her compass rose pendant. Even unconscious, she seemed to reach for it like an anchor. Claire, Marcus kept his voice gentle, if there's something about that area, something that might explain why your mother was there. You don't understand. Claire stood suddenly, pacing the small room. That's where it all started, where she built everything from nothing, where she met my father, her voice caught, where she lost him. Before Marcus could respond, Sarah's eyes fluttered open. She took in the report on the table, Claire's distressed face, and understanding dawned in her expression. You went to the old neighborhood, Claire said, not quite accusatory. Why? Sarah's hand went to her pendant, but this time she forced it back down. Some ghosts need facing, she said quietly. Some secrets can't stay buried forever. What secrets? Claire demanded. You always say everything's fine, the past is past, but then you drive out there in the middle of the night and nearly... She broke off, tears threatening. Sarah reached for her daughter's hand. Sweetheart, there are things you don't know, things I've protected you from. I don't need protection. Claire pulled away. I need the truth. Marcus moved to leave, to give them privacy. But Sarah's voice stopped him. Stay, please. She looked exhausted but determined. You should hear this too, after everything you deserve to know. But before she could continue, Robert Winters appeared in the doorway, face tight with concern. Sarah, there's been a development. The board is calling an emergency meeting. The monitors showed Sarah's heart rate increasing. Now, there are rumors. Winters glanced meaningfully at Marcus. About that night. Questions being asked about where you were going, who you might have been meeting. Mom, Claire's voice, was small. What's he talking about? Sarah closed her eyes briefly, one hand returning to her pendant. When she opened them, the vulnerable woman was gone, replaced by the CEO. Robert, give me a moment with my daughter. The board is waiting. They can wait one more minute. Her tone left no room for argument. Once Winters stepped out, Sarah turned to Claire. I need you to trust me a little longer. There are things I have to handle, pieces that need to be in place. Then I'll tell you everything. I promise. But Please, sweetheart. Sarah's CEO mask slipped, showing the mother beneath. Just a little more time. Claire stood stiffly, gathering her things. Fine, I'll come back tomorrow. She paused at the door. Just tell me one thing. Does it have something to do with Dad? With what really happened to him? Sarah's fingers whitened around her pendant. Go home, Claire. Get some rest. After Claire left, Sarah turned to Marcus, her expression unreadable. I imagine you're questioning everything now. I'm not questioning you, he said carefully, but I am concerned. About my accident, or about what might have caused it? About you. The words came out more softly than he intended. She studied him for a long moment. There's so much I want to... She stopped as Winters reappeared, more insistent this time. Sarah, the board, is demanding answers. She straightened in her bed, CEO mask firmly back in place, but as Marcus turned to leave, she caught his hand. Her touch was light, but it sent electricity through his skin. The answers are all there, she whispered. In the place where it began, where it all changed. Someone just needs to know where to look. Her words followed Marcus down the hallway, echoing in his mind as he passed the police report, still lying open on her table, 20 miles from her home. A neighborhood she'd avoided for years, a past she was finally ready to face, and somewhere. In that past, a secret worth dying or killing to protect. The old newspaper clipping was yellowed with age, carefully preserved in a plastic sleeve. Local woman transforms abandoned warehouse into design haven, the headline read. The photo showed a much younger Sarah Matthews standing proudly in front of a renovated industrial building, her hair shorter, her smile fiercer. The same compass rose pendant gleamed at her throat. My first real success, Sarah explained, working through her physical therapy exercises as Marcus supported her. Everyone said I was crazy to invest in that neighborhood, but I knew it had potential. They were in the hospital's therapy room, morning light streaming through tall windows. Sarah's determination showed in every controlled movement, every careful step. Take it slow, Marcus cautioned as she pushed herself harder. Recovery isn't a race. Everything in my life has been a race, she said, but eased back slightly. Racing to prove myself, to build something lasting, to give Claire the life she deserved. From her corner chair, Claire looked up from her homework. These therapy sessions had become a strange kind of family routine. Mother rebuilding her strength, daughter keeping vigil, and Marcus being whatever this careful thing between them was becoming. You did give me that life, Claire said quietly. More than I needed, probably. Sarah paused, sweat gleaming on her forehead. Not everything, not all the answers. The silence that followed felt heavy with unspoken words. Marcus helped Sarah to the next exercise station, aware of how naturally they moved together now, how his hands seemed to know exactly where to support her. I found more articles, Claire said suddenly. From back then, about the warehouse district revival, about how you changed everything. She hesitated. About Dad? Sarah's grip on the parallel bars tightened. Claire, I'm not asking for answers, not right now. I want you to know that I understand better now. Why that place means so much. Why you went back there that night. Marcus watched the interplay between mother and daughter, sensing a shift in their dynamic. Claire was seeing her mother not just as a parent or a CEO, but as a woman with a past, with regrets, with reasons. Your mother's vital signs are getting stronger every day, he said, deliberately changing the subject. The recovery trajectory is... Oh my God. Claire's sudden laugh broke the tension. You're doing the professional voice thing again. It's okay to just say she's getting better. Sarah smiled too, and Marcus felt warmth spread through his chest at the sight. These moments of lightness were becoming more frequent, precious breaks in the weight of secrets and corporate pressure. Speaking of professional, Sarah said, completing her final exercise, I hear the hospital administration has been asking questions. Marcus helped her to a chair, trying to keep his expression neutral. "Nothing I can't handle." "Marcus." Her hand caught his wrist. "I don't want to cause problems for you. Your career is mine to worry about." He surprised himself with the firmness in his voice. Claire watched this exchange with sharp eyes. "You know," she said thoughtfully, "I used to think Mom's success story was about the business, about turning nothing into something, but maybe—" She looked at the old newspaper photo again. "Maybe it was about more than that. Maybe it was about finding people who believe in you, even when it's complicated." Sarah's fingers brushed her pendant, but this time the gesture seemed less like checking a lock and more like holding something precious. "Sometimes the most valuable things we build aren't buildings at all." Marcus felt the weight of her words, of Claire's gradual acceptance, of his own growing certainty that whatever was happening between them was worth any professional complications. The newspaper photo caught the light. That younger Sarah Matthews, staring out with determined eyes, not yet knowing how her story would unfold. Not knowing that 2 decades later she would find herself rebuilding not just her strength, but her whole understanding of what matters most. And in the corner of the photo, barely visible, was the edge of that warehouse district where it all began, where something waited to be discovered, a truth that could no longer stay hidden in newsprint and memory. The faded photograph slipped from between the pages of Claire's history textbook, a ghost escaping its hiding place. She'd been studying in Sarah's hospital room, using the quiet afternoon hours between corporate visitors and medical rounds. "What's that?" Marcus asked, noticing her sudden stillness. Claire held the photo like it might crumble. "I've never seen this before." Her voice trembled. "Mom and Dad." The image showed a young couple on what looked like a construction site. Sarah, hair wild in the wind, laughing at something beyond the camera. Beside her a man with Claire's dark eyes and determined chin, his arm around Sarah's waist. They were standing in front of the same warehouse from the newspaper article, but before its transformation. And there, catching the light, Sarah's compass rose pendant. "I remember that day." Sarah's voice came from the doorway. She was returning from her therapy session, moving more steadily now, but leaning on a cane. "The bank had just approved our loan. We thought we could conquer the world." "Why have I never seen this?" Claire demanded. "Why do I hardly have any pictures of him?" Sarah made her way to her bed, each step measured, because sometimes memories are too painful to keep in plain sight. "That's not good enough anymore." Claire stood, photo clutched in her hand. "You've been saying that for years. When you're older, it's complicated. Some things are better left in the past." "I'm not a child anymore." "Claire," Marcus started, but Sarah held up a hand. "No, she's right." Sarah reached for her pendant, then deliberately let it go. "You deserve the truth. About that night. About your father. About all of it." "Miss Matthews." Robert Winters' voice cut through the moment. He stood in the doorway, tablet in hand. "The board meeting starts in 5 minutes. They're waiting for your video call." Sarah closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, Marcus saw something shift, a decision being made. "Cancel it." "I'm sorry." Winters stepped forward. "Sarah, this is about the Morrison contract. Millions in potential. Cancel it." Each word was steel. "My daughter needs me. The board can wait." Claire's breath caught. In all her 17 years, she'd never seen her mother choose family over business, not like this. Winter's face darkened. "Need I remind you that there are already questions about your judgment? After that night in the warehouse district, Robert," Sarah's voice could have frozen fire, "leave now." After he left, silence filled the room. Claire looked between the photo and her mother, years of questions burning in her eyes. "Mom," the word was barely a whisper. Sarah patted the bed beside her. "Sit with me, sweetheart." She glanced at Marcus. "Both of you. This involves you too now." Marcus took the chair next to the bed, close enough to offer support, but giving mother and daughter their space. "Your father," Sarah began, touching the photo gently, "was brilliant. A dreamer. He saw possibility everywhere, especially in that old warehouse district. We were going to build something amazing together. What happened to him? Claire's voice shook. Really happened? You always said it was an accident, but it was. Sarah's fingers found her pendant again, and it wasn't. She took a deep breath. That warehouse project. It attracted attention, the wrong kind, people who didn't want the neighborhood to change, people who had their own plans for that land. Marcus watched understanding dawn in Claire's eyes. The accident wasn't an accident. The police called it one. No evidence to prove otherwise. But David, your father, he'd found something, documents, proof of what was really happening in those abandoned buildings. He was going to expose everything. The night he died, Sarah continued, each word heavy with long-buried pain, he called me, said he'd finally found what we needed, told me to meet him at our warehouse, but when I got there, Claire reached for her mother's hand. The photo lay between them, that moment of hope and possibility, frozen in time. The compass rose. "A pendant," Marcus said quietly. "It was his gift to you, wasn't it?" Sarah nodded. "Our first anniversary. He said it would help me find my way home, no matter how lost things seemed." Her voice broke slightly. "I never thought I'd have to find my way without him. But that night," Claire pressed, "when you had your accident, you were there at the warehouse. Why?" Sarah met Marcus's eyes, then her daughter's. "Because after 20 years, I finally found what your father died trying to protect. And someone knows. I found it." The hospital ethics guidelines lay open on Linda's desk, specific passages highlighted in stark yellow. Marcus stood before her, still in his scrubs, aware of the security camera recording their conversation. "It's not just about professional boundaries anymore," Linda said, tapping the manual. "The board of directors is involved now. Matthews Design Group's legal team has raised concerns about liability." "Concerns about what?" Marcus kept his voice level. "About me doing my job. About you doing more than your job." Linda's expression softened. "Marcus, I've seen how you look at her. More importantly, I've seen how she looks at you. And now, with all these questions about her accident—" And Knock interrupted them. Dr. Patel entered, looking grave. "You need to see this." He handed Linda a tablet displaying a local news website. The headline made Marcus's stomach drop. "Matthews Design Group stock plummets amid questions about CEO's late-night activities. They're painting it like some sort of scandal," Dr. Patel explained, suggesting she was meeting someone secretly that night. "The company's stock has dropped 15% since opening." Linda set the tablet down carefully. "Marcus, we need to establish clear boundaries. Immediately. No more private conversations, no more off-duty visits. All interaction must be strictly professional and documented." "She trusted me," Marcus said quietly. "She was finally opening up about what happened." "Which is exactly the problem," Linda stood. "You're too involved. This isn't just about patient care anymore. There are reporters asking questions about your relationship. The hospital can't afford—" "Can't afford what?" Sarah's voice cut through the office. She stood in the doorway, Claire beside her, both of them having obviously heard everything. "Can't afford to let a nurse show basic human compassion?" "Ms. Matthews," Linda straightened, "you should be resting." "I should be a lot of things." Sarah moved into the room, her cane tapping softly on the floor. "But right now, I need to make something clear. Marcus Taylor isn't just another nurse to me. His blood runs in my veins. His kindness helped me heal. And if anyone suggests there's something inappropriate about that, they'll have to deal with both my legal team and my conscience." Claire stepped forward, surprising everyone. "Mum's right. Marcus has been there for us when everyone else just saw dollar signs and liability issues. He's the only one who—" She faltered, then squared her shoulders. "The only one who made Mum feel safe enough to finally talk about Dad." A heavy silence filled the room. Dr. Patel looked between them all, then quietly excused himself. The security camera's red light blinked steadily. Sarah Linda tried again. "No one is questioning Mr. Taylor's dedication or professionalism. But given the circumstances, Sarah interrupted, you should be thanking him. Because the night of my accident, I wasn't meeting a lover or making secret deals. I was following a 20-year-old trail of evidence about my husband's murder, evidence that certain people would kill to keep buried. And the only reason I'm alive to investigate it is because of Marcus's gift." The words hung in the air like smoke. Claire's hand found her mother's arm, steadying her. "Murder?" Linda's voice was barely a whisper. Sarah reached for her pendant. "Why do you think the company lawyers are so concerned? It's not about proper medical protocols. It's about what I found in that warehouse, what I might tell Marcus, what he might already know." Marcus stepped forward, professional distance forgotten. "Sarah, if you're in danger, we all are." She met his eyes. "That's why they want to separate us. Not because we're too close, but because we're getting too close to the truth." A commotion in the hallway drew their attention. Robert Winters was approaching, flanked by two men in dark suits. "Time to go," Sarah said quietly. She turned to Linda. "You can enforce whatever protocols you need to, but know this. Trying to keep Marcus away won't protect anyone. It'll only help the people who want to bury the past." As Winters reached the office, Sarah straightened to her full height, CEO mask firmly in place, but her hand found Marcus's briefly, a touch that said more than words could. "Mr. Taylor," Winters said coldly, "I believe you have other patients who need attention." Marcus looked at Linda, who nodded slightly. As he left, he heard Sarah's voice, steel wrapped in silk. "Robert, perfect timing. Let's discuss exactly how much the board really knows about what happened 20 years ago." The security camera kept blinking, recording it all. But some truths, Marcus realized, couldn't be captured on camera. They lived in the spaces between heartbeats, in the warmth of a brief touch, in the courage to face buried secrets, and in the blood they now shared. The birth certificate was crumpled at the edges, as if someone had gripped it too tightly before sliding it under Marcus's door. He found it at the end of his shift, just a plain envelope with his name written in unfamiliar handwriting. At first, he almost missed the significance. Claire's name, birth date, mother's name, all expected. But there, in the space for father's name, was something impossible. Not David Matthews, a different name entirely, Michael Winters. Marcus read it 3 times, his hands growing cold. Michael Winters, Robert's brother. Quite a document, isn't it? Sarah's voice made him jump. She stood in the doorway of the break room, leaning on her cane. "I wondered when Robert would play that card." "Sarah," Marcus couldn't find the right words. "Is this real?" "Yes." She moved into the room, checking they were alone. "Though the truth behind it is more complicated than Robert wants you to believe. Does Claire know?" "No." Sarah sank into a chair, exhaustion evident in every line of her body. "I've protected her from this her whole life. David knew. He loved her anyway. Loved her more because of it, maybe." Marcus sat across from her, the birth certificate between them like a landmine. Michael Winters was there the night David died. Sarah's hand went to her pendant. "He was David's friend, or so we thought. They worked together investigating the warehouse district corruption. But Michael was playing both sides. When David got too close to the truth, she broke off as footsteps approached. Claire appeared in the doorway, still in her school uniform, freezing when she saw their expressions. "Mom," her eyes found the document. "What's that?" Sarah closed her eyes briefly. "Sweetheart, is that my birth certificate?" Claire moved. Closer, drawn by the tension in the room. Before either of them could react, she'd caught a glimpse of the name. All color drained from her face. "Claire, please, let me explain." "Michael Winters?" Claire's voice cracked. "Robert's brother. The man you always said died before I was born." "He did die." Sarah reached for her daughter, 2 months after David. In what everyone called an accident. Claire jerked away. "Stop. Just stop. My whole life is a lie. Dad wasn't—" She broke off, tears starting. The man in that photo, the one who loved me, who built everything with you, he wasn't really my father. He was your father in every way that mattered." Sarah stood, swaying slightly. Marcus moved to steady her, but she waved him off. David knew about Michael, knew what happened between us. It was one night, a terrible mistake, when Michael and I thought David had been killed in an earlier attempt on his life. When we found out he was alive, she touched her pendant. David forgave me, said love was bigger than biology. But Michael couldn't let it go. "The warehouse," Marcus said suddenly, pieces clicking into place. "The evidence David found. It wasn't just about corruption, was it?" Sarah shook her head. "Michael had proof of everything. Every bribe, every threat, every illegal deal. He was going to expose it all, not to clear his conscience, but to destroy his brother Robert's empire. He thought—" She looked at Claire, pain etched in every feature. "He thought if he brought down the corrupt power structure, I'd choose him, let him be your father." "But Dad, David, he tried to stop him." Claire's voice was small. "He tried to protect us all. The evidence Michael had, it would have destroyed not just Robert, but half the city's leadership. The fallout would have been catastrophic." Sarah's fingers whitened around her cane. The night he died, David wasn't just meeting Michael about the evidence. He was trying to save him, trying to convince him there was a better way. "And now?" Marcus asked quietly. "The night of your accident, I found Michael's old files, everything he'd gathered. Robert must have realized, must have known I was close." She stopped as heavy footsteps echoed down the hall. Robert Winters appeared in the doorway, his face ashen. "Sarah, I see you've shared our little family secret." "Your brother's secrets," Sarah corrected coldly. "And his death. That wasn't an accident either, was it, Robert?" Claire looked between them all, tears streaming now. You killed them both? Your own brother?" "Claire," Robert's voice softened, "you're my niece. Everything I've done was to protect yourself," Sarah finished. "But it's over now, because I have proof of everything." The birth certificate lay forgotten between them, its revelation now just one piece of a much darker puzzle. And in the growing silence, Marcus realized that the blood he'd given Sarah had done more than save her life. It had given her the strength to finally unbury a truth that had claimed 2 lives and was still hungry for more. Sarah's diary lay open on Claire's lap, its pages filled with familiar handwriting, turned strange by time and truth. She'd found it in her mother's bedside drawer, beneath the old photo of Sarah and David at the warehouse. "You should read it," Sarah had said softly. "All of it. You deserve to know everything now." The entry Claire kept returning to was dated just after David's death. How do I tell her? How do I explain that her father died protecting us from a truth that would tear everything apart? David wanted her to know someday, said secrets have a way of poisoning love. But he also said timing matters, that sometimes love needs time to grow strong enough to survive the truth. Claire looked up as Marcus entered the hospital room, carrying fresh water for Sarah. Her mother was finally sleeping, exhausted from the confrontation with Robert. The compass rose pendant glinted in the afternoon light. "I used to love watching her right in this," Claire said, her voice rough. "She'd sit in her office every night, no matter how busy things were. I thought she was working on company stuff, but she was writing to me, leaving a record, trying to find the right words to explain everything." Marcus set the water down quietly. "Your mother wanted to protect you by lying?" But there was more confusion than anger in Claire's voice now. "I keep thinking about that photo, about Dad, David, how happy he looked, how proud." She touched the diary's pages. In here, she writes about how he used to read to me every night, how he'd spend hours planning my birthday parties, how he— her voice caught, how he made her promise that if anything happened to him, she'd make sure I knew I was loved. Not just by her, but by him, the father who chose me. Sarah stirred in her sleep, fingers clutching her pendant. Even unconscious, she seemed to be holding on to something precious. "And Michael?" Marcus asked gently. "Your biological father?" Mom writes about him too, about how he changed after finding out about me, became obsessed with exposing everything, destroying Robert's corruption no matter the cost. Claire closed the diary. He wanted to tear it all down. David wanted to fix things from within, and in the end, they both died trying to protect what mattered most to them, Marcus finished. But Robert lived. Claire's voice hardened. He killed his own brother. Let David take the blame. And now he's trying to kill Mom because she finally found proof. Marcus moved closer, speaking low. The police are watching her room. Hospital security has been doubled. Robert can't. You don't know him like I do. Claire stood, pacing. All these years, he's been playing the concerned uncle, coming to my recitals, sending birthday gifts, acting like he was keeping David's memory alive. But he was just watching, making sure Mom never told me the truth. A noise in the hallway made them both tense, but it was just a nurse doing rounds. Claire returned to her chair, picking up the diary again. "There's something else in here," she said. "Something about a safety deposit box. Mom writes that David left something there, something he wanted me to have when I was old enough to understand. The evidence? I don't know, but look at the date." Claire pointed to an entry. "He set it up the day before he died. And the key," she looked at her sleeping mother, at the compass rose pendant. "Mom always said it was just jewelry, just Dad's last gift to her." Marcus understood. "It's not just a pendant. It's a key." Claire's voice shook. "All these years, she's been wearing the key to everything David wanted to protect, everything Michael died trying to expose. And Robert," she stood suddenly, "Robert must know. That's why he was so interested in her accident, in what she was doing at the warehouse. He thinks she found whatever David left, but she didn't. She just found Michael's old files." Sarah made a small sound, perhaps sensing the tension even. In sleep, the pendant caught the light again, no longer just a symbol of lost love, but a key to buried truths. Claire touched her mother's hand. "I understand now," she whispered, "why you kept the secrets, why David made his choice, why everything had to wait until I was ready." But in the quiet hospital room, surrounded by the weight of revealed truths, one question remained unspoken. Were any of them truly ready for what that key would unlock? The resignation letter sat half-finished on Marcus's phone, each word feeling like a betrayal. "I, Marcus Taylor, hereby resign my position at St. Mary's Hospital, effective immediately. While I have always strived to maintain professional standards." He couldn't finish it, not yet. Not with Sarah's room dark and empty in front of him, the bed still made from morning rounds. Not with Claire's frantic voicemail playing in his head. "They're moving her. Robert's pushing through. An emergency transfer to private care. Mom says don't trust anyone. The pendant." The message had cut off there. "Looking for your patients?" Robert Winters stood at the nurse's station, coat draped over his arm despite the warm evening. "Ms. Matthews has been transferred to Milwaukee. General, better facilities, more privacy." Marcus's hand tightened on his phone. Without consulting her primary care team, the board made the decision. Given recent improprieties in her care, Robert's smile didn't reach his eyes. "I assume you're working on your resignation? Wise choice. Though I'm sure with your dedication to patient care, many facilities would be happy to hire you. Far from here, of course." The threat was velvet-wrapped steel. Linda appeared from her office, face drawn with concern. "Marcus, I need your badge and login credentials." "Linda, please. Sarah's in danger. The transfer has been approved at the highest levels." Her voice held genuine regret. "I fought it, but with the ethics complaints and the media attention." "Ethics?" Marcus's laugh was harsh. "Robert here killed his own brother, David Matthews too, and now he's isolating Sarah to get to whatever evidence she found." "Serious accusations." Robert's voice cooled. "From a nurse who's become inappropriately involved with a patient, who's facing potential legal action for breaching confidentiality, who's about to lose not just his job, but his license." Linda stepped between them. "Marcus, please, don't make this worse." His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Mum's compass rose. "It's not at Milwaukee General. We're safe, but we need help. Storage Unit 23, Central Lock and Key. Hurry!" Clarity hit like lightning. They'd planned this. Sarah and Claire hadn't been caught off guard by the transfer at all. They'd used it as cover to disappear, to finally use the key they'd been protecting all these years. Marcus looked at his unfinished resignation letter, then at Robert's smug face. Sometimes the hardest choices were the simplest ones. "You're right," he said, pulling up the letter. "I should finish this." He typed quickly. "I resign because I choose to stand with the truth, with justice, with love that survives decades of secrets. I choose Sarah Matthews and her daughter. I choose to honor David Matthews' sacrifice, and I choose to expose Robert Winters for the murderer he is." "Hit send," Linda gasped. Robert's face darkened. "You've just ended your career." "No." Marcus pulled off his badge, set it on the counter. "I've just started something else, something that started the night I gave Sarah my blood, because that's what family does. They share blood, they share truth, they share the fight." "You're not family," Robert snarled. "You're nothing but a nurse who forgot his place." "Wrong again." Marcus stepped closer. "I'm the man who's kept Sarah alive while you tried to finish what you started 20 years ago. I'm the man Claire trusts to help protect her mother. I'm the man who's about to walk out that door, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. Security will what? Arrest me for resigning, for walking away from a job?" Marcus was already moving. "But you know what they might be interested in. The real reason for this sudden transfer, the connection between Michael Winters' death and David Matthews' murder. The evidence Sarah found that has you so scared." He reached the elevator, Robert's face contorted with rage behind him. Linda called out his name, but he didn't look back. The doors closed on his old life. His career, everything he'd worked for. But as the elevator descended, Marcus felt lighter than he had in weeks, because sometimes the greatest acts of healing had nothing to do with medicine. Sometimes they were about choosing truth over safety, love over protocol, justice over security. His phone buzzed again. "Hurry! It's time to finally open the lock that David died protecting." The compass rose. Pendant wasn't just a key to a safety deposit box. It was a key to the truth, and Marcus was done letting rules and regulations stop him from helping Sarah and Claire find it. The family tree diagram was drawn in David Matthews' precise architect's hand, discovered in a weathered envelope inside Storage Unit 23. But it wasn't a normal family tree. Instead of names and dates, it showed a web of connections, companies, bank accounts, offshore holdings, all leading back to one central point, Winters Development Corp., SG 1982. "He mapped it all out," Sarah said softly. She sat on an old chair in the storage unit, still wearing her hospital gown under Claire's school sweater. Every shell company, every hidden transaction, the entire corrupt empire Robert built. Marcus studied the diagram under the unit's fluorescent lights. But why draw it like a family tree? Because that's what corruption is in this city, Claire answered, her father's intuitive understanding shining in her eyes. It's inherited, passed down, protected like family. Sarah touched the compass rose pendant, now separated from its chain. David knew Robert would never suspect his evidence would be hidden in something so domestic, a family tree showing a different kind of legacy. The storage unit was small, filled with old furniture and boxes labeled in David's handwriting. Claire's baby clothes, Sarah's design awards, family photos, a life preserved in cardboard and dust. "How did you know Robert would push for the transfer today?" Marcus asked, still processing everything that had happened. "Because I left Michael's files where he'd find them." Sarah's smile held 20 years of patience. Just enough evidence to make him panic, to make him show his hand. But not the real proof. She held up the pendant. "That was always here, waiting for the right moment. The moment when I was old enough to understand," Claire said quietly. She picked up a photo album, opened it to reveal a hollow center. Inside lay a small key. Dad left 2 keys, one that Mom wore, showing us where to look, and one hidden here, showing us what to find. Sarah took both keys, holding them together. In the harsh storage unit lighting, Marcus could see how they complemented each other, the pendant's decorative surface concealing its true purpose, the simple key waiting in shadow. They fit the same safety deposit box, Sarah explained. Both needed to open it. David's final failsafe, which is why Robert could never force you to open it alone, Marcus realized. He needed both keys. He needed more than that. Sarah's voice strengthened. He needed Claire to be ready. David wrote that in his last letter, the one I found at the warehouse the night of my accident. The evidence couldn't just expose Robert's crimes. It had to show Claire the whole truth about her family, about how love matters more than blood. Claire knelt beside her mother's chair. The patient forms from the night Marcus donated blood. They're in here too. Dad kept everything that showed what family really means. Marcus looked at the family tree diagram again. Behind the web of corporate corruption, in faint pencil marks, David had drawn another tree, a simpler one. Sarah, Michael, himself, baby Claire. But Michael's name was gently erased, while David's was drawn in stronger, a choice made visible. Robert never understood, Sarah said, watching Marcus study the drawing. He thought family was about control, about power, about blood. But David, she touched the diagram. David knew it was about choices, about who we choose to love, who we choose to protect, who we choose to become. Like you choosing to tell me the truth, Claire added. And Marcus choosing to help us, even when it cost him everything. Marcus felt the weight of their words, of David's legacy, of the truth waiting in that safety deposit box. What happens when we open it? Robert falls. Sarah's voice held no satisfaction, only certainty. The evidence doesn't just prove he killed Michael and David. It proves how deep the corruption goes, how many people protected him, helped him, looked the other way. And then, Claire asked softly. Sarah reached for Marcus's hand, then her daughter's. Then we build something new, something honest, something David always wanted, a legacy of truth instead of lies. The storage unit's lights flickered, as if in response to the power of that promise. Around them, David's carefully preserved pieces of family life stood witness. The furniture he'd chosen, the memories he'd saved, the future he'd tried to protect. We should go, Marcus said, helping Sarah stand. Robert will figure out the transfer was a diversion soon. Sarah nodded, but paused to pick up one last thing, a small framed photo of David holding newborn Claire. 20 years of waiting, she whispered. Time to finish what he started. They left the storage unit carrying David's family tree, both keys, and the weight of 2 decades of secrets. But as they drove toward the bank, toward the final truth, they carried something else too. The certainty that family isn't just drawn in diagrams or proven by blood. Sometimes it's built in hospital rooms, strengthened by sacrifice, and sealed with a choice to stand together no matter the cost. The business contract lay unsigned on the bank manager's desk, its final clause highlighted. Matthews Design Group hereby transfers all controlling interest to the Winters Development Corporation, effective immediately. Robert's elegant fountain. A pen waited beside it, a cobra poised to strike. It's quite simple, Sarah, Robert said, his voice carrying through the bank's after-hours quiet. Sign the company over to me, surrender both keys, and everyone walks away. Claire keeps her trust fund. Mr. Taylor keeps his nursing license. You keep your life. Sarah sat across from him, still in her hospital gown and Claire's sweater, but somehow looking more powerful than she had in any boardroom. You really don't understand, do you? Even after all these years. I understand that you're outnumbered. Robert nodded toward the 2 men positioned by the bank's doors. That your dramatic escape from the hospital just delayed the inevitable. That right now my lawyers are filing papers to have you declared mentally incompetent. Mom, Claire whispered from beside her, we could just leave, start over. Marcus stood behind them, acutely aware of the security camera's blind spots David had marked on his diagram. Everything in this bank, he realized, had been part of the architect's final plan. "Your daughter's smart," Robert said. "Think about her future. About the scandal if David's evidence becomes public. About what people will say when they learn who her real father was." "My real father," Claire's voice cut through the tension, "left me a legacy of truth, of courage, of knowing that doing the right thing matters more than keeping power." Robert's smile tightened. "Pretty words, but this is business. This is reality." "No." Sarah stood slowly, holding both keys. "This is family, something you never understood." She moved toward the safety deposit box vault, Marcus and Claire flanking her. Robert's men stepped forward, but he waved them back. "Let her try. She'll need both keys and the account number." "David would never have—" 17829, Sarah recited, "Claire's birthday, because David knew that someday she'd be ready to understand everything." The vault door opened smoothly. Sarah led them inside, Robert following with barely concealed anticipation. "You know what's fascinating?" Sarah said conversationally as she located box 1782. "How you never questioned why David designed this bank, why he insisted on this specific vault system." She inserted both keys. The box slid out with a whisper of metal on metal. "Because he knew," she continued, "that someday we'd need to tell the whole story, not just about your crimes, but about love, about choice, about what really makes a family." Inside the box lay a single USB drive and an envelope marked, "For Claire." Robert lunged forward, but Marcus was faster, putting himself between Robert and the evidence. 20 years of secrets balanced on a razor's edge. "It's over, Robert," Sarah said quietly. "That drive contains everything. Every document David gathered, every transaction Michael traced, every piece of evidence they died protecting. But more importantly," she handed the envelope to Claire, "it contains the truth you never understood." Claire opened the envelope with trembling fingers. Inside was a formal adoption paper dated 2 days before David's death, signed by both David and Michael Winters. "They worked together one last time," Sarah explained, her voice thick with emotion. "Not to expose corruption, but to protect Claire, to make sure that no matter what happened, she would legally and irrevocably be David's daughter." "Michael agreed," Claire whispered, "because he finally understood what David had been trying to tell him, that being a father isn't about blood, it's about love, about choice." Robert's face contorted. "This changes nothing. That drive will never leave this vault. My men have already been arrested," a new voice announced. Linda Chen stood in the vault doorway, flanked by FBI agents. "Hospital security cameras catch everything, Robert, including your confession about Michael and David's murders." Sarah held up her phone, its recording light blinking. "Modern technology, so useful for preserving important conversations." As the agents moved in, Claire clutched the adoption papers to her chest. Marcus kept his position beside Sarah, watching 2 decades of corruption crumble in a matter of moments. "The company contract," Robert said desperately, "the transfer of power will never be signed," Sarah finished. "Because David taught me something too. Power isn't about control. It's about building something worthy of the people you love." The evidence was gathered. Robert was cuffed, and 20 years of secrets finally saw light. But in that bank vault, surrounded by the proof of David's final brilliant plan, 3 people had already found the most valuable truth: that family isn't inherited or bought or controlled. It's chosen, protected, built with love stronger than blood. The wedding ring gleamed in Sarah's palm, a simple gold band that had once belonged to David. She'd found it in the safety deposit box, wrapped in a note. "For when love finds you again, because it will. Trust that like you trusted me." 2 weeks had passed since Robert's arrest. The media storm had begun to settle, leaving behind a changed landscape. Sarah sat in her home office, the morning sun warming the space where corporate awards had once dominated. Now, family photos filled the walls, old ones of David with baby Claire, new ones taken since the truth had come to light. "Mum!" Claire appeared in the doorway, looking more relaxed than she had in months. "Marcus is here. He brought breakfast." Sarah closed her hand around the ring, feeling its warmth. "How was your college interview?" "Good. I told them about wanting to study law, about understanding justice because of Dad, because of both my fathers, really." Claire moved into the room, perching on the desk's edge. "The dean said my personal essay about family and truth was compelling. David would be so proud of you." Sarah touched her daughter's hand. "Michael too, I think. In his own way, he tried to do the right thing at the end." The smell of coffee drifted up from downstairs, followed by quiet footsteps. Marcus appeared, carrying a tray laden with breakfast. He'd traded his hospital scrubs for casual clothes, but his way of moving, careful, attentive, healing, remained the same. "The nurses send their love," he said, setting down the tray. "Linda especially. She's testifying at Robert's hearing next week." "And your medical license?" Sarah asked softly. "Reinstated. The board reviewed everything. They're even offering my job back." He smiled. "I haven't given them an answer yet." Claire looked between them, understanding passing across her face. "I should check on my college applications." She hugged her mother, then surprised Marcus with an embrace. "Thanks for breakfast, and for everything else." After she left, Sarah opened her hand, revealing the ring. "David left this with a note." Marcus sat beside her, not touching but close enough to share warmth. "He knew, didn't he, even then, that someday you'd need permission to love again." "Not permission." Sarah's voice was thoughtful. "Freedom." He understood that love isn't about ownership or control. It's about wanting happiness for someone, even if you're not there to share it. Like Michael signing those adoption papers. Yes. She turned the ring over, watching it catch the light. Both of them learned that in the end. That love is about choices, about building something larger than yourself. Marcus was quiet for a moment. The hospital board isn't the only one making offers. Matthew's Design Group's executive committee wants me to head their new charitable foundation, using the company's resources to support medical care for underserved communities. Sarah looked up sharply. "You're considering it?" "I am." His hands moved in that careful way of his, smoothing non-existent wrinkles from his sleeves. "I've learned that healing happens in many ways. Sometimes with medicine, sometimes with truth, sometimes with justice, sometimes with love," Sarah added softly. The morning sun painted patterns across the desk, across their hands now inches apart. Through the window, they could see Claire in the garden, her dark hair catching light just as David's had in that old warehouse photo. "I've been thinking about blood types," Marcus said suddenly, "about that night in the ER, universal donor, universal recipient, how something as simple as blood can connect people." Sarah opened her fingers, letting David's ring rest in her palm. "Some people would say it's too soon, that after 20 years of holding on to the past, I should wait longer before reaching for the future. What do you say?" She picked up the ring, but instead of putting it away, she placed it in his hand. "I say that David knew love doesn't follow rules or timelines, that healing happens when it happens, that family is built one choice at a time." Marcus closed his fingers around the ring, around its history and its possibility. "And what choice are you making now?" Sarah stood, drawing him up with her. In the garden below, Claire had found David's old architectural plans, spreading them out on the lawn to study. The compass rose pendant lay on the desk, its secret purpose fulfilled, now just a beautiful reminder of the past. "I'm choosing to build something new," Sarah said, "with my daughter, with the legacy David and Michael left us, and—" she touched Marcus's hand, still holding the ring, With you, if you're choosing that too. His answer was in the way he held her, in the promise of healing still to come, in the understanding that love, like family, like truth, like justice, is always worth the wait. Outside, Claire looked up at them and smiled. David's papers spread around her like a map to the future. 3 hearts healing together, choosing each other, building something even architecture couldn't fully design. A home where blood and choice, past and future, love and truth, all flowed together like life itself. The house keys jangled in Marcus's hand, new cuts still bright and unmarked. 3 sets, one for him, one for Sarah, one for Claire. The realtor had looked confused when they'd insisted on 3, but some things were too important to leave to assumption now. "It's perfect," Claire declared, spinning in the empty living room of the craftsman-style home. "Look at all these built-ins. Dad would have loved the woodwork." Sarah stood in the doorway, taking in the space. The morning light streamed through, stained glass windows, casting colored patterns across the hardwood floors. He would have, especially that reading nook. The house sat halfway between the hospital and Matthew's design group headquarters, with a view of the city David had helped build, not too far from Claire's future college campus either. Everything connected, like the family tree he'd drawn so carefully. "The previous owners left something," Marcus said, opening a hall closet. Inside hung a vintage blueprint, yellowed with age. "I noticed it during the inspection." Sarah moved closer, her breath catching. "It's one of David's, from his early days, before the warehouse project." She traced the lines with a finger. "Look at the attention to detail, how he planned for natural light, for family spaces, for the future," Claire added softly. She'd been accepted to law school, early admission, her essay about justice and family legacy earning her a scholarship. He was always planning for the future, wasn't he? Even when he knew he might not see it. Marcus began unpacking a box marked Essential Memories. Inside, wrapped carefully in tissue paper, was the compass rose pendant. Sarah had stopped wearing it after the bank vault, but couldn't bear to store it away entirely. Now it would hang, in their new home, over the fireplace, a reminder of paths taken and truths found. "The foundation paperwork came through," he said, setting up the display. "The Matthews Taylor Medical Access Initiative. First clinic opens next month." Sarah smiled at the name they'd chosen together, at how naturally their lives had woven into one. "And the hospital board?" "Accepted my part-time arrangement, 3 days in the ER, 2 days with the foundation." He turned to her. "How's the company transition?" "Smoother than expected. The board actually appreciated learning the truth about Robert. Makes their jobs easier, knowing they're not hiding anything anymore." She moved to help him unpack. "Claire's internship starts next summer. Legal department. She wants to help make sure nothing like this happens again." They worked together, unpacking boxes and arranging furniture. Claire ordered lunch, and they picnicked on the floor, planning where everything would go. The afternoon sun shifted through the stained glass, painting them in jewel tones. "I have something," Claire said suddenly, pulling a package from her bag. "I found it in Dad's storage unit. There was a note saying to save it for when the family was complete again." Inside was a handmade quilt, crafted from what looked like baby clothes and old T-shirts. In the center, expertly stitched, was a design that matched David's family tree drawing, but with space left for new branches. "He saved pieces of everything," Sarah whispered, touching a square made from Claire's first baby dress. "Every important moment." "And left room for more," Marcus added, noting the blank spaces in the pattern. Claire spread the quilt over their laps as they sat together on the floor. "I remember him working on this. He said families are like quilts, made stronger by bringing different pieces together." Through the windows, they could see the city skyline David had helped shape. Somewhere out there, Robert awaited trial, his empire of secrets unraveled by truth. The warehouse district was being revitalized, this time with transparency and community input. Michael's grave had finally received a proper headstone, acknowledging both his mistakes and his final choice to protect his daughter. "To new pieces," Sarah said softly, leaning against Marcus as Claire curled up beside them. The house keys glinted in the colored light, no longer just metal, but symbols of the future they were building. 3 sets, 3 lives, 3 hearts, choosing to become something stronger together. Outside, a moving truck arrived with more boxes. Inside, a family continued unpacking memories while making room for new ones. And somewhere, perhaps, David smiled at the legacy he'd protected, not of wealth or power, but of love strong enough to outlast secrets, survive truth, and build something beautiful from all the scattered pieces of the past. The family portrait caught everyone by surprise. They hadn't planned it, hadn't even realized the moment was being captured. But there it was, displayed at the opening of the Matthews Taylor Medical Clinic. Sarah, adjusting Claire's graduation cap. Marcus, looking at them both with quiet pride, all 3 caught in genuine laughter. "It's unofficial," the photographer had apologized, but Sarah insisted on using it for the clinic's dedication, because there, in that unguarded moment, was everything David had fought to protect: joy, connection, family built from choice. 5 years, Claire mused, standing before the portrait. Her law degree was fresh, her position in the company's legal department already making waves. 5 years since that night in the ER. Sarah squeezed her daughter's hand. "Your father would be so proud, both of your fathers." The clinic buzzed with activity around them. It was a beautiful space, all natural light and warm woods, echoing David's architectural style while meeting modern medical needs. Marcus had insisted on details that made patients feel valued: comfortable seating, children's play areas, art on the walls. Dr. Taylor, a nurse, appeared with charts needing review. The title was new. Marcus had completed his medical degree while helping build the foundation, determined to expand his ability to heal. "Coming," he answered, then paused to kiss Sarah's cheek. 5 years of marriage had only deepened their connection, proving David right about love finding its time. As Marcus moved away, Claire touched the portrait's frame. "I visited Michael's grave yesterday, left flowers. It feels right now, honoring him too." Sarah nodded. After Robert's conviction, they'd learned more about Michael's final days, his struggle between ambition and conscience, his ultimate choice to protect his daughter by giving her completely to David's love. "The warehouse district renovation starts next week," Claire continued. "The community center will be named after Dad. The real estate board actually asked for his original plans, because they finally understand what he knew all along." Sarah smiled. "That building something meaningful isn't about profit, it's about people." They walked through the clinic together, greeting patients and staff. The compass rose pendant, mounted in a display case near the entrance, caught the morning light. Beside it, a plaque told their story, not the sensational version that had filled newspapers, but the true one about family, justice, and love. Linda Chen, now the hospital's chief of nursing, arrived with a gift, the original blood donation form from that fateful night, framed alongside Marcus's reinstated medical license. "For your wall of memories," she said, hugging them both. "Though I doubt anyone could forget how this all began." The day flowed around them. Patients receiving care regardless of ability to pay, medical students learning to treat people rather than just symptoms, families finding help and hope. Everything David and Michael had died protecting, transformed into something that helped heal their city. Sarah found Marcus in his office later, reviewing cases. The room was small but warm, decorated with photos of their life together. Their wedding day, Claire's graduation, quiet moments at home. And there, on his desk, the family tree diagram David had drawn, now expanded to include new branches. "Ready for the dedication speech?" she asked. He looked up, still boyish in his excitement, despite the grey touching his temples. "Actually, I thought Claire should give it. She bridges everything. past and present, both her father's legacies, law and medicine. She's the future David saw coming. Through the window they watched Claire talking with a young patient's family, her natural empathy shining through. She'd taken the best from everyone who'd loved her: David's vision, Michael's passion for justice, Sarah's strength, Marcus's compassion. "You know what I realized?" Sarah said softly. "That night in the ER, when you offered your blood, it wasn't the beginning of our story. It was the middle. David started it, laying down all those pieces we'd need. Michael added his part. Even Robert played his role. And now we're writing the chapters they couldn't see, but somehow," she touched the family tree diagram, "somehow they knew we'd get here, to this place where love and truth and healing all flow together." The clinic hummed with life around them. Patients receiving care, families finding hope, a legacy of secrets transformed into a foundation of truth. Outside, the city skyline David had helped shape stretched toward the future. And in every heartbeat, in every moment of healing, in every choice to love and protect and build, their story continued to unfold. Just as David had drawn it, just as Michael had protected it, just as Marcus and Sarah had chosen it. A family created from blood freely, given, truth bravely faced, and love carefully, joyfully, permanently chosen. The hospital volunteer badge caught the morning light as Claire pinned it to her suit jacket. "Claire Matthews Taylor, legal advocate," it read, marking her new role in the program she'd created. Lawyers helping patients navigate the healthcare system. "Just like old times," Marcus said, walking with her through the familiar halls of St. Mary's. "Though I seem to remember you sneaking in without a badge back then." Claire laughed. "Because someone's nurse friend kept looking the other way." They reached the emergency room where it had all begun. Linda was still there, training new nurses with the same mix of firmness and compassion. The blood donation chair still stood in its corner, though now a small plaque marked its significance. "Where healing begins, with one person choosing to help another." "Mom's running late." Claire checked her phone. "Board meeting about expanding the clinic program." "Some things never change," Marcus smiled. "Though I think your father would approve of why she's delayed." "Which father?" The question held no pain now, only appreciation for how love could take different forms. "Both of them," Marcus answered. "David's vision of building for community, Michael's drive for justice. She's honoring them both, just like you do." They passed the spot where Sarah's bed had been that first night. The hospital had changed over the years, modernized and expanded, but something of that moment remained. The power of choices, made from love. "Did I ever tell you?" Claire said suddenly. "I found one last letter from Dad, David, in the back of his old sketchbook. He wrote it the night before everything happened." Marcus waited as she gathered her thoughts. "He wrote that he'd seen Mom's blood type in her medical records. O negative, universal donor. Said it made perfect sense. How she gave everything to help others succeed." Claire's voice softened. "And he wrote about you." "About me?" "But he never, not you specifically, about the person who would come after him. He wrote that someday, someone with the same giving spirit would find Mom and me. Someone who would understand that family isn't just DNA. It's a choice to share your blood, your truth, your whole heart." The emergency room doors opened, and Sarah walked in, still elegant in her business attire. The compass rose pendant was back around her neck, transformed from a key to a testament. Proof that love survives, truth prevails, family endures. "Sorry I'm late." She kissed Marcus, hugged Claire. "But wait until you hear. The board approved clinics in 3 more districts. David's old warehouse area is first on the list." They stood together in the place where their story had turned. 3 people bound by choice and love and truth. Through the windows, the city stretched toward morning, its skyline still bearing David's touch, its future shaped by Michael's sacrifice, its present made better by their combined legacy. "Ready for the volunteer orientation?" Claire asked, straightening her badge. Marcus looked at his family, the daughter who carried two fathers' dreams, the wife who had trusted him with her truth, the life they'd built from all the scattered pieces of the past. "You know what I tell new volunteers?" he said as they walked together. "That healing isn't just about medicine, it's about choices, about seeing someone in crisis and deciding to help, no matter the cost. About offering your blood?" Sarah's eyes twinkled. "About offering your heart," he corrected gently. They reached the orientation room, where new volunteers waited to learn how they could help. The morning sun painted everything in shades of possibility, just as it had that night, 5 years ago, when a nurse chose to help a stranger. Claire touched her badge one last time, then opened the door to begin teaching others about healing, truth, and the power of choice. Behind her, Sarah and Marcus watched their daughter carry forward the legacy of two fathers, one mother, and the endless ways love finds to build family from the heart's own blood. In the end, it was always about choice. The choice to give, to trust, to love, to build something lasting from life's broken pieces. The choice to believe, as David had, that family isn't defined by DNA, but by decisions made from love. The choice to understand, as Michael finally had, that protecting love matters more than possessing it. And the choice to know, as Marcus and Sarah lived every day, that sometimes the greatest healing comes from letting love write its own story.